So, if you're getting serious about planning for retirement, you've probably heard the word annuity thrown around. And look, it's a big decision. It's totally natural to ask yourself, is this thing actually the right move for me? Well, the great news is you're not supposed to figure that out all on your own. There's actually a powerful set of rules designed to protect you, and we're going to call it your suitability shield. Let's dive in. This really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? You're looking at these financial products, they can feel super complex, maybe even a little overwhelming, and you're trying to figure out if it really fits into your life, your plans, your goals. But here's the critical thing to know. The pressure isn't all on you. In fact, there are rules in place to make sure the person recommending it has already done that homework for you. And that's where this suitability shield comes in. It's so important to understand this isn't just a friendly suggestion or some kind of industry best practice. Nope, it's a formal legal requirement that financial professionals have to follow to make sure the product they're recommending is genuinely appropriate for you. So what exactly is suitability? Well, think of it like this. It's a standard that says any annuity recommendation can't be some one-size-fits-all solution. It absolutely has to be tailored to your specific financial situation and your unique personal goals. It's a fundamental protection that's really designed to put your needs front and center. Okay, now check out the way this is actually written in the regulations. It sounds a little clunky, right? Not unsuitable. You're reading that and thinking, what's with the double negative? But that phrasing is actually so important. It sets a very clear minimum standard. It means the insurance producer, that's the person recommending the product, can't just think it's an okay fit. They have to have solid reasons to believe it is definitely not a bad fit for you. It's a subtle but powerful difference. So how in the world do they meet that standard? They can't just guess. An insurance producer is legally required to do what's called a reasonable inquiry. You can just think of it as their mandatory checklist. They have to gather a whole bunch of specific information about you before they're even allowed to suggest a product. We can pretty much break down this entire inquiry, this whole checklist, into 3 key areas. First, they've got to understand your current financial profile. Second, they need to know what your goals and your past experiences are. And third, they have to get a really good handle on your comfort with risk and what resources you actually have. So let's take a quick look at each one. First up is your financial profile. This is basically a snapshot of where you stand today. They're going to ask about your age, your income, your tax bracket. Now, why does that matter? Well, because these details determine how an annuity's tax features might help you or not. They also need to know about your other investments to make sure this new product is going to work with your existing plan, not against it. All right, next, they have to understand where you're trying to go, your goals and your experience. Are you looking for a guaranteed income stream in retirement, or are you maybe trying to get some long-term growth? Your answer completely changes what product makes sense. Your time horizon is also a big one. I mean, an annuity might be a terrible fit if you think you'll need that cash back in just a few years. And your past financial experience helps them figure out if the complexity of a certain product is really a good match for you. And finally, they have to assess your risk tolerance and your resources. This is absolutely crucial. If you're a pretty conservative investor who hates the idea of losing money, recommending a variable annuity that's tied to the stock market would probably be completely unsuitable. They also need to understand your liquidity needs. If you might need this money for an emergency, locking it up in a long-term product would be a really bad idea. It's all about making sure the product's features align with your real life. Now, that suitability shield we've been talking about, it actually has an extra layer of armor, and it's specifically designed for older consumers. The rules get even tougher to make sure seniors are protected when they're making these really important financial decisions. The magic number here is 65. The second you cross that threshold, the regulations start considering you a senior consumer. And it makes perfect sense, right? At this stage of life, financial mistakes can be much harder to recover from, and that's why the suitability standards automatically get kicked up a notch. And check this out. This is a really important detail, especially for couples. Let's say you're buying an annuity with your spouse. If just one of you is 65 or older, it doesn't matter how old the other person is. That enhanced, tougher senior standard automatically applies to the whole transaction. The big takeaway here is that for seniors, the bar is just set higher. That phrase, reasonable efforts, means the producer can't just ask a question and move on. They're expected to be more diligent, to ask follow-up questions, and to make sure they have a totally complete and accurate picture of that person's financial situation before they even think about making a recommendation. Okay, so we've talked about all the rules, but what does this actually mean for you, in a practical sense?
How do you make sure that your suitability shield is up and working for you?
It really all boils down to this: that Suitability Shield is powered by your information. The more complete, the more accurate the details you provide about your finances, your goals, your concerns, the stronger your protection gets. You got to think of yourself as an active partner in this whole thing.
And that leads to maybe the most important takeaway of all. Yeah, these rules are in place to protect you, but the whole process really starts and ends with you. You're the source of all the critical information, and at the end of the day, you're the one who has to feel good about the decision. You are the central figure in this entire process. Never forget that.
So the next time you sit down to talk about your finances, just remember this: you're not just a passive listener in this conversation. You now understand the standard of care that you're owed. You know the kinds of questions they should be asking you, which means you are now in a powerful position to ask the right questions right back.